What is it you would do about this? What is it you would do about what we saw? Maybe you buy what Jimmy Garoppolo said. Just need some time. Just got to work some things out. Got to work with my guys. I've never worked with these guys before.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people are like, what do you mean you've never worked with these guys before? Maybe he's talking about the interior of the offensive line.
That's a big pass for me. If we're going to play buy or sell, I can't sell that fast enough. That whole notion of, because a week ago, it was like riding a bike.
I agree with you.
And now all of a sudden, you got saddle sores?
That's a bad 1-2 punch of audio from Jimmy Garoppolo. Last week, it was like riding a bike. This week, boy, I had no camp.
Thank you.
Know what I mean? Here's one thing you can't do, and he knows this. You just can't do this in a public space when you're a major celebrity and you get a podium after every time you go to work. You can't do, look, I'm not trying to make excuses, but. And he threw one of those in there. Listen, I get it. There's always an excuse. This is football. This guy went through an entire playoff run last year with no thumb and no shoulder, and to his credit, he did not use it as an excuse. It's going to be really hard if your name is Jimmy Garoppolo and you are in the 6th year of being the quarterback of the 49ers to come out and say, hey, no playbook. I don't know these guys. I just met this guy, Kyle, who stands behind me. I'm sorry. It's just, there may be some validity there somewhere, but it's not going to work.
No.
It's not going to work in front of a microphone.
Especially when you come out and you score a touchdown on your second drive and things look good. You looked pretty comfortable and you were humming. And then after that, you get absolutely nothing done. You're right, though, about I'm not going to make excuses, but that whole line of answering, it's brutal. And the boys in the morning mentioned it earlier, Trey Lance after the week 1 loss and how he took accountability. Really refreshing for a young player. I thought Jimmy G could have gone a long way last night toward taking more accountability, but ultimately, that wasn't his biggest mistake of the night.
I mean, and by the way, his biggest mistake of the night, Kyle Shanahan did take accountability for that. Kyle Shanahan came out because of the walking out of the back of the end zone, which Jimmy gets his share. You got to just have. I'm going to give, if we were going to do a pie on this, 75% of that goes to Kyle for the play call. But Jimmy, even if it was a terrible play call, Richard Sherman talked about it on Twitter. Kyle took accountability. Jimmy afterwards sort of, you could tell, thought it was, he was like, well, that was a tough situation. In other words, yeah, you put me in a tough situation, but how do you not have the presence on the field? You look at that play and let's imagine the quarterbacks in the NFL who everybody wants. The Mahomes, the Allens, the Bradys, the Rodgers, the Herberts. There's no way they don't have the field presence to sort of feel like it wasn't, oops, 1 foot touched one little blade of white grass.
He was way out.
Both feet.
He was way out.
Just ran out of the back of the end zone for the second time in the history of the league.
The play call was terrible, but that is on the quarterback. That's on Jimmy Garoppolo. So the play comes in, and you're on your own 1 yard line, and the call is a screen. Okay, Jimmy G may not have been thrilled with the play call, but when he drops back, he's got to know, like you said, you got to have that sense of awareness to know that you don't have 15 yards to run back. He goes 12 or 13 yards back. You're out of the end zone. And, oh, by the way, thank God he stepped out because he threw a pick 6. So that's the thing about it. I mean, he could have thrown 2 or 3 pick 6s in that game. I don't understand why he was so much worse than normal. Even if you take the baseline Jimmy Garoppolo, and I'm not as big a fan as his as you are, but I think it's hard to look at that game, look at all his starts as a 49er quarterback, and not see that was one of the bottom 5 performances.
I'm totally with you. Can we hear from some people who last night went, see, that's Jimmy? No, it isn't. That was the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. That wasn't Jimmy. I don't know who that was. But go to the bad games of the past. Go to the ones where Jimmy's frustrated you, and each and every one of you can do this on your own. Pop to mind, what's the Jimmy game that's frustrated you the most over the last 4 years? I'll give you mine. It's Tennessee last year. Tennessee Titans game last year. Thursday night football game. Same darn thing as what we've seen this year. 49ers come out, script works, got the lead, they're the better team, all of that. And then Jimmy is missing throws, making terrible decisions, getting picked off in the red zone, all of that stuff. And the 49ers found a way to lose that football game. That was my most frustrating Jimmy Garoppolo game in recent memory.
But that was 26 of 35, Mark. He threw for 322.
Thank you. My point being, last night was way worse than that one. So this whole narrative of, well, that's Jimmy. No, it's not. Give me a game where Jimmy looked worse than last night. Well, I can't think of it.
There's games where he's looked that bad, but to me, that's even if that's the worst that Jimmy G has looked, that is Jimmy. The throws that he made, the mistakes that he made, those are the things that drive people crazy about Jimmy Garoppolo. It's not like you had a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers have a game and play that badly. And this is why QB rating to me is one of the more fraudulent stats in all of sports, because he had a decent QB rating, but fumble, took a safety, and the pick he threw in the fourth quarter where you're trying to drive for a field goal. You mentioned it in the changeover. It's just a throw you cannot make at any level.
Yeah, I hated
Live
that
to
one.
fight another day into triple coverage, and just it's game over. Jimmy, people are frustrated because they do feel that is Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah, I thought that was worse. Obviously, it is Jimmy. He did it. I mean, think about mulligans in golf. I heard, I can't remember who it was on the PGA Tour, but they said this one time, like, we'll hit a ground ball off the tee, and we'll go, oh, hold on. Give me another one. Give me another one, because that's not me. And the PGA Tour player was like, no, see, but that is you. It's the worst version of you.
Yeah.
But yes, that is in your repertoire that you can hit a ground ball. Last night was in Jimmy's repertoire.
Yeah.
And it would, but I believe that to be, I don't know, based on what I've seen, that's the floor. That's the floor.
It better
this
be.
isn't, right. And
if not, we're going to see Brock Purdy.
Oh, well, we're going to see Brock Purdy. We're also not going to see the playoffs. I can tell you that. But so many of you I know, I've heard this from so many people. You want accountability from Kyle and from Jimmy, right? And I'll agree with you. I thought Jimmy didn't necessarily say what you probably wanted to hear him say yesterday. Kyle did say this, if what you're looking for is accountability.
I mean, that was a tough situation I put him in. That unblocked guy coming. Wish we'd had time for the big play and could have ditched it. But it was a tough situation I put him in.
Yeah, wish we had time, but that was like, in other words, that was a bad play call. I don't know. Has Kyle Shanahan ever done that before? That was a bad play call.
I'm sure he has.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it was a bad play call. I thought in general, Kyle Shanahan's play calling was not the issue. And, you always talk about how it's hard to criticize play calling, and I do it a lot. I thought yesterday Kyle Shanahan's play calls, for the most part, were good. Jimmy Garoppolo's execution was terrible. The offensive line was porous. And I said it last week when you asked me on Friday. You said, okay, you think Denver's going to win. How do you think that Denver's going to win? And I kind of laid out that very scenario. Denver's defense, better than people want to give them credit for. The Niners' run game, by the way, is in disarray. You had one good run from Jeff Wilson Jr. and a bunch of nothing.
He set up the whole
aside
touchdown.
from that. So,
gosh, I'd still love to see more Jordan Mason. Did he get one carry? And it was a good one.
He didn't get one.
No,
I'm
pretty sure that. Oh, did it get called back?
It must have, because I was looking for it in the box score and it didn't show up.
Yeah, he definitely had a carry and it went for about 8 yards, and maybe it did get called back. I can't remember.
It didn't show up in the box.
Yeah.
So unless the NFL.com box score is wrong.